I'm Rachel Dollywall, Certified Career Coach, and joining me today is Dr. Kate Branham, Professor and Program Director of International Relations and Middle Eastern Studies. We're going to talk to you today a little bit about letters of recommendation and some important tips and information to know. Dr. Branham, thank you so much for being here with me today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
So it can be easy for somebody to misunderstand and think that letter of recommendation is rather self-explanatory, but really, in reality, there's a lot more to it than that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I think the important thing for students to know, or anyone really, is that a letter of recommendation is a professor or a university putting their name on the line. So this isn't just another form they fill out. This is something where they say, we're putting our stamp of approval on you. So for a professor to give a recommendation for a student, they are really putting their own reputation on the line. Absolutely. So if a professor exaggerates, then it's going to make the university look bad. It's going to make that professor look bad. So they really want the information to write a good recommendation.
Okay. And you said exaggerate. Can you explain a little bit more about that? How would a professor feel that maybe he or she had to fluff it or exaggerate?
Recommendations are hard to write, and if a student doesn't provide you with enough detail, with actual, or you don't know the student well enough, then you're left just giving these general phrases. And if you end up giving general phrases, they can end up sounding too positive, and they're not going to be taken seriously by the person who receives them.
It's really disingenuous.
Yeah, you don't want it to sound disingenuous. And the people who read recommendations read the same thing again and again. You know, works well with others, great collaborator. But if they get details of a particular project, then they're more likely to take it seriously.
So you would recommend for students to pursue those research projects, really be more in touch with their professor, maybe reach out outside of the typical assignments and the day-to-day?
Yeah, it's difficult for professors to write a really good recommendation unless they know the student. So I tell students that they should, first of all, make personal contact with the professor in the actual classroom. So go to office hours, even if you don't have a question, or make an appointment if the professor doesn't have particular office hours, and just chat. Mm-hmm. Professors actually, students are sometimes intimidated, but professors actually like to talk to their students. I would say also, just shoot a note to them occasionally, a question, anything, even if maybe you already know the answer. Mm-hmm. Just make them aware of you as a person. And then afterwards, when the class is done, when you're in the next class, you can always write an email back to the professor saying, oh, the background you gave me was really helpful, thank you. Just little touches like that. You can reach out to a professor who you think might want to mentor you, and that makes it easier when you ask for the recommendation. Now, if you're already at the stage where you need recommendations and you maybe haven't done that, I know I didn't really do it as an undergrad particularly, you can still make contact, but what you do now is that you provide the recommender with information about you. Say, I was in this class, and here's, so that they don't have to go look, say, here's a paper I wrote for you with your comments, or here's what was important that you did with me, and always send your CV to them and things like that.
Okay, so what you're saying is it would be really important to request a letter of recommendation from a professor with whom you have more of a strong relationship with. And when you're reaching back into the past for those previous professors, helping to provide them some information to give them context about those projects they worked on together.
Yes, absolutely, because even though professors are very interested in what their students are doing, they also have an awful lot of students, so make it easier for them. Writing recommendations isn't the thing that professors love to do the most, so try to make it easier for them, because one thing to remember is writing a recommendation is not an obligation for a professor. They do not have to do it. It isn't like turning in grades. Professors have the option to write recommendations. Right. So you want to make sure that they want to write one for you.
So in approaching professors for the very first time, what would you recommend?
I would recommend that you start out politely, that you identify who you are, tell them why they are important to you. The first paragraph should be, you know, I took this class with you and you were really helpful because, then say if you, yeah, and then engage. Ask for it. Don't assume that they're going to give it to you. Don't say, please write me a recommendation. I need it by this date. You know, you need to say, I would be really grateful if you could write this recommendation for me. And then you tell them where it's for. If it's 3 or 4 graduates programs or 3 or 4 jobs, that's fine. But tell them why this is important to you, because you want the professor to feel your enthusiasm and to be as engaged in this process as you are.
And create that buy-in.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's important. I'm not trying to intimidate people when I talk about how important it is to be polite. We just want people to really show the professor that they're ready for the professional world or graduate school, and by being polite, they are giving that message.
Absolutely. Yes, it really shouldn't be intimidating on either side of that equation. While letters of recommendation are one part of your complete application process, they can be a crucial part as they help to distinguish between similar candidates. So keep in mind that a little bit of grace and respect can really go a long way. Dr. Branham, thank you so much for being here with me today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
If you find yourself in the rare circumstances where the depth you would receive from a professor letter of recommendation is not necessary, Career Services can provide you with an administrative letter of recommendation, though these should be used as a last resort. Thank you so much for watching. For more information, please review our Letters of Recommendation request page in your eCampus.